Welcome to the Coffee Club, broadcasting live from New York with your host, Felix, and co-host, Dr. Mark. So let's have a cup of coffee and enjoy the show.
There is no heaven. There is no hell. There is only this world and its dark reflection. And we do not know in which of the two worlds we are.
We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. For deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday. We'll walk hand in hand. We'll walk hand in hand. We'll walk hand in hand someday. For deep in my heart, I do believe we shall We shall live in peace. We shall live in peace. We shall live in peace someday. For deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome We are not afraid. We are not afraid. We are not afraid today. For deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday.
Will they ever overcome?
Well, I hope they knew that you were singing. Were they able to hear your voice?
Yeah, but that was in 1962. I was very young then,
Oh, I know you were a little boy.
and you could hear
I
it by
mean,
my
50,
voice.
you were like 8
12
years
12
old.
Years old. No, 12 years old. So, had that little voice. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the show, the Coffee Club. I'm your host, Felix.
And I'm Dr. Mark, just checking the newspaper here. Got a few things we want to discuss, but
Well, first thing, Mark, please go in the back of the bus.
why? I bathed.
Go to the back of the bus. That's where you belong.
Yeah, if I told you I was Jewish, you'd tell me to get off the bus.
Well, I wasn't being very prejudiced. I didn't make you get off. I just said go to the back.
Yes, I know. I know. Ladies and gentlemen, obviously a lot went on this weekend. 50 years of Selma, going back to 1965. I think it's interesting to note, I pointed it out to the Rev, actually to Felix, he's not the Rev tonight, that not one Republican congressperson felt it important to march with the president and John Lewis. George Bush was there, okay?
Senior or junior?
Well, the George Bush, the son.
Okay.
George H.W. Bush is much too old to go on those things. He's over 90,
Was
but,
Clinton there?
However, it's important to note that George H.W. Bush voted against the Voting Rights Act when he was a congressman back in 1965, against the Voting Rights Act. George Wallace's daughter was there over the weekend. Everybody remembers George Wallace with his rhetoric, segregation now, segregation forever. 50 years can change people.
Well, his daughter was not him. It's.
Well, no, it was what she grew up in. But I tell you, I watched 60 Minutes, and, they had a very interesting piece about Selma, and they said, unfortunately, the story of Selma is still being written because it's a story of two Selmas. Very much self-segregated. All right, there are two malls. One mall is frequented by African Americans, the other one by whites. If you walk through the neighborhoods, it's obvious to tell which neighborhoods, are inhabited by African Americans as opposed to whites. Because they're run down and in great need of repair.
You're talking about present-day Selma.
Present-day Selma, yes.
Well, unfortunately, present-day, a lot of cities are that way. Not just Selma.
No, we find it here on Long Island. You walk down certain neighborhoods, and it's obvious that certain neighborhoods are run down and are in disrepair. And then you walk through other neighborhoods, and, it's quite obvious to see the difference.
New York City, same thing, even though Harlem used to be that way, that area is improving quite a bit.
Well, Harlem, what young people may not realize is that at one time, during the turn of the 20th century, Harlem was a place for literary elites, poets, actors, playwrights and writers. It was really something to live in Harlem back then.
Yeah, it's true.
But I notice, aside from Selma, I noticed in the paper Boko Haram. Everybody remembers Boko Haram. They're the ones that kidnapped those girls, Nigerian girls, and nobody's heard anything about the girls. Lord knows what's happened to them. They were at it this weekend. They swore allegiance to Baghdadi and to ISIS. And 4 suicide bombers, women, exploded bombs killing 54 people. Okay?
Where? Get them glasses on, boy.
I know. 143 people were injured in Maiduguri, the capital of the Borno state, which is the birthplace of Boko Haram. So it's Nigeria.
Nigeria. Well, Nigeria is the biggest country, I think, in Africa. And I'm not sure the breakdown, but I think it's Christians and Muslims. I'm not sure what the actual breakdown is.
But it's just, there's no end in sight. I heard on the news, Felix and I were bantering back and forth here prior to coming on the air that I'm having a senior moment here, folks.
So am I, because I don't remember what we were bantering about.
The Republicans in Congress were more or less saying that whatever agreement might be reached by the Iranians and President Obama isn't going to be worth the paper it's written on, unfortunately, because he's going to be out of power in a year and a half.
Also, they were talking about they didn't think the Iranians would hold the agreement. That's what I heard. They felt that it was not a treaty and the Iranians were not going to be of any obligation to keep it up, and they think they're just going to keep building their nuclear piles. And
well, Secretary of State Kerry said that they're about 6 years away, but most people tend to feel that they're at least 4 years away. Okay, so
they have a 10-year agreement. They have 4 years to do it without being bothered.
Listen, some sort of agreement has to be reached, but you see, unfortunately, these people, you can't reason with them. It's not even like the Russians. We can come to some accord with the Russians, okay? Because despite what we might say about Putin, the Russians and the Americans, even the Chinese for that matter, there's a certain amount of trust, or we all have enough nuclear weapons, at least the United States and Russia, we have enough nuclear power to destroy the world many times over.
Probably China, too.
Many times over. But you see, China, you can, they may be the enemy, but you can talk to them at least.
Well,
you can't talk to ISIS.
That's true. I don't know if you want to,
You can't talk to the Ayatollah.
No, it's true. You can't. But, I just don't think that. I think the only thing you can do with Iran is put a border around them, seal them in, and starve them to death. At one point or another, they're going to have to give up and give in.
Well, I believe it or not, I did go for a haircut today, Felix. I do have some hair that needed trimming, and my beard was growing rather wildly. But the guy who cuts my hair, Alexei, okay, we were talking about the Russian Revolution back in 1917, around then. And he was talking about how, the communists sent this big general who was much like Putin, he'll kill you just as soon as look at you, into Uzbekistan and all those other countries that end in STAN. And what the guy did was he just went in and wholesale started killing people. No hostages, no negotiating. And obviously what he was trying to say, my barber, was that, that's the way you have to deal with these people. You just have to go in there and make an example of them.
Well, in short of going to war with them, I think putting very strict restrictions and limiting everything that they can get, eventually they'll have to break down themselves.
Well, listen, I'm with you on that because, the last thing Americans really want, although this was the other thing that came out in non-news today, more Americans are actually talking about boots on the ground. For this, they want boots on the ground. Okay, they want to wipe ISIS out.
Well,
the only way to wipe ISIS out is to go in there full force. Mm-hmm. Don't go in there expecting to that the sanctions are going to be do anything.
There's
really.
No sanctions against them.
Well, attempting to have sanctions.
Well, not against them. They're also, from what I understand, they're expecting 10,000 more Europeans to join them, or your Westerners, including us, probably.
Yeah, really, I just thought of something. They're taking volunteers to colonize